Well, Glynn, how's your sense of humor holding up?
Quite well, thank you.
Is it going to carry over into the next Billboard?
The next Billboard will be different than this one.
Less funny?
Depends on your sense of humor. I'm getting quite practiced at these political kind of answers, too. Like, do you disagree with your bishop sort of questions? Yeah.
Yes. Do you? So what possessed you to approve this billboard when I presented it to you?
I think there are 5 reasons, really. Firstly, I wanted people to talk about Christmas, not Santa and all the rest. I wanted people to talk about what they thought was the nature of God and the nature of the virgin birth. Secondly, I wanted to say there are lots of different views among Christians about the nature of God and the virgin birth. There's not just my view and a very crude, literalistic view that we lampooned. There are actually many views. Thirdly, I wanted to say something about my view, my progressive view, which is that Jesus had 2 human parents, and that God was the power of love in his life, power of love in his mother's life. And when I say the word Son of God, I mean that he radiated that power of love of God. And when his disciples saw him, they saw something of God. Fourthly, I wanted to lampoon a very literalistic view of the virgin birth, i.e. a male God who mated with Mary and produced a son. And whether most Christians don't believe that crude view, that is how often popular culture sees it when we use the words virgin birth. And fifthly, I wanted to send a message out to people who are on the edge of the church or way outside the church and say, if you want to think differently about God, you don't have to believe in literalism. There are Christians inside the church. There's room in the inn of Christianity, even if it's with us out round the back.
Well, did we achieve the goals?
Yes. I think, there's some lovely stories coming. People who disagree with the billboard said, well, someone came along to work, and this person's writing from the UK or Canada or Argentina, and they said, I came along to work and showed this picture and said, what do you think of this? And somebody said, oh, that's terrible. And someone else said this, and suddenly they got talking. And they were talking about Jesus and God and their beliefs. And somehow these conversations have ignited all around the world. And for that, I'm very grateful. Other things, well, yes, I think some people have heard the message that there are other views of Christmas. And as we've gone on, particularly on talk show radio, Lindsay Freer and I were on a talkback thing on the BBC in England, and certainly people were ringing in and getting a much broader taste that there wasn't just, Glynn's view and a literalistic view. There's all sorts of views, and Lindsay could put forward what she understood by sort of central Catholic view, and I thought that debate was very good indeed. In terms of getting people to laugh, yes, we've got a lot of people to laugh, but I suppose the most precious one is the people who are on the periphery or outside the church who say, hey, there might be space here for me. And we've had a lot of feedback, a lot of calls. I've had people come up and said, I'm an Anglican, and today I feel really proud to be an Anglican. And I mean, there's just lots of stories like this. Well, after I came home, after being on the news last night, my 10-year-old daughter said to me, Dad, about you not believing God's a man, I think that's good news for girls. I thought, yeah, these are precious things, very precious things.
There have been numerous emails that have suggested you and I are the spawn of Satan and an abomination in the eyes of the Lord. That's one of the nicer ones. And their objection is that how can a church be offensive? Any thoughts on that?
There is quite a lot of debate around this because, in a sense, the thing that we offended against in Anglicana was one of the golden rules, thou shalt not offend anyone. And that's the primary crime in terms of the Anglican denomination. And I've just said, well, we don't do bland, we do edgy. This is the first billboard we've used sexual innuendo. Usually I stay away from sexual innuendo. People can get it really wrong, really big time wrong.
But it sells.
Who brought him on this? Sorry, Clay, am I answering your question? Probably not.
Yeah, you're doing fine.
What was the question again?
About can a church be offensive?
Yes, I think it can be. It needs to be careful about that. It needs to always say there is lots of room for different opinions, and my view, our view, is not necessarily right, but let's talk about, let's go on a journey together towards the truth of God in Jesus.
Thank you very much for being with us today and answering our questions in this interview.
Maybe I should just say one more thing about the people who tore down the billboard. There was 4 different attacks on the billboard. I understand that. I understand political protest. If I'd been here in 1981, I probably would have been part of the group tearing down the fence to get onto the pitch at Hamilton. Okay, I understand about that thing. What is more difficult is the really vitriolic hate mail, and that's a sort of a weird thing. It's almost like under the big umbrella of Christianity, there's these little pockets here and there. And I don't think it's the people tearing down the billboard, but it's out there, a really sort of ugly side of Christianity.
Just a couple thoughts from me on all of this.
I'll go and sit back down.
No, it's only, they're very brief. You're going to have to stay up here. One, I want to thank you all as well for your support. We really did get a lot of letters from people, not only here and from you and calls, but from around the world, every country. Just amazing. One of my favorites was a guy who does the publicity for the Mormons, who thinks our billboards are wonderful and wants to begin a dialogue. So, and I've heard from lots of Catholics who loved it. And, so while the media has fueled those who are disgruntled, I'm grateful to them because the disgruntled have fueled the billboard. If they hadn't gotten so upset, this would have died over in a few hours. But let me tell you about one outcome of this. I got a call from a woman who was concerned for her daughter. Her daughter is 18, is beginning to ask a lot of spiritual questions, but this mother is a single mom, has been trying to protect her from religion all her life. She's taken her to church a few times, and that was fairly destructive. Well, her daughter saw the billboard and said, "Mom, can we go there on Christmas? And I'd really like to talk to one of the ministers." So her mother called me to check us out, to see if we were safe. They are coming Christmas Eve, and I am meeting with the daughter after Christmas. So that was worth the billboard all by itself, as far as I'm concerned. Another story you might enjoy is I was asking the person I work with at M&C Saatchi how the creative team was taking its success. And she said, "Oh yeah, we're pretty chuffed." I said, "Well, what about the young lady that came up with the idea in the first place?" And she said, "Oh, she alternates between going, 'Wow,' to, 'Oh no, what have I done?'" I said, "Well, how's she dealing with it today?" "Well, I think she's happy, but she says she still hasn't told her mom."